what an honor to be here. And Tech, thank you. It's always great to see him. And I know he's been a great president here. And Autumn, thank you for being also a good friend. Autumn is on our board of the NAI as well. And I'm just delighted to make it up here and to be a part of this event. I've heard about it. I was going to do it last year, and I injured myself. Not in an airplane, but I injured myself, and I was unable to make it. And so to do it this year just makes it feel really, really good. So first off, congratulations. I was sitting in there watching the students present and seeing this great board. I was just blown away. I even texted my office, said, this is what they do here is just amazing. And the students here are incredible. What your projects are, I learned a lot. I don't know a lot about AI, but I learned a lot of what you're doing. The other thing I want you to know, your style of presentation was incredible. You all did it, what I thought, they may not agree, but I think they do. You just did great presentations. Strong, short, to the point, and you should really feel proud of yourself. So I want to congratulate you again, because I just thought you did great. All right, so I added a few slides to this. And at the beginning, just to tell you who I am a little bit, you can see what your president presented. Fine, that's great. And of course, but I thought I'd present a few things. Well, first of all, I did want to thank again Tech fellow, your provost. Congrats to him and to Autumn. So let me tell you a bit about me in a few slides. So I am very interested in medicine and in helping find ways to combat diseases. And I have been a researcher. I did go to medical school. And stuff, but I have really focused in on research and administration. And I've really focused in on the brain and what causes brain cells to die, and then how can we fix that? And this has been a driving force of mine for many years. And I've used different types of cells over the years, and you've probably heard about them. I was in the days, some of my fame is in the days of using fetal tissues, cells, in putting them in Parkinson's patients, for example. And of course that had some real strong ethics associated with it. And so eventually I moved on to other sources of cells, our bone marrow, and ended up really favoring in many ways umbilical cord blood cells. Umbilical cord blood cells have a lot of stem cells in them. And it focused in more on stem cell related cells. And I was working in a lot of fields at that time. You heard a lot of different diseases and stuff, but there's personal things that happen in our lives, and this will affect you if it hasn't already. And there are certain people that we care about, and my father suffered a stroke. And I looked younger there, so I must have been younger. And he suffered a stroke, and it was at Herman Hospital. They were in Texas, in Houston, and he was there, from his stroke. And I stood there for a long time, kind of did my work out of that hospital for a while. And I said, there's got to be better things we can try, especially for stroke. And at that point, stroke is something that destroys a lot of tissue. things like Parkinson's destroy certain cells. So we've always focused in, can we change, try to replace dopamine cells, for example, or something. But in this case, you're trying to regrow a brain area or to protect one. And so I moved off my lab and I said, we're going to focus in on stroke. So stroke is a leading cause of adult disability in the country and in the world. There are almost 800,000 strokes a year, in different intensities of stroke. I'm sure, how many people here have experienced a family member or close friend that have stroke in there? There you go. That's a lot of people. And heart attack and stroke are two difficult things. And about a third of patients will do fine after a stroke. A third of patients usually will die. A third of patients will have some lingering symptoms and problems that they have to cope with. It's a huge cost to this nation, and there's not a lot of treatment for it at this point. There is some drugs that will cause clots to, declot and stuff. There's a lot of rehabilitation that everyone goes through. And so the idea was to move into that direction. And so for myself, I worked on the idea of, can we create a cell that we can put into the brain, and it could be one of the types of cells I told you, we could put into the brain directly and try to regrow that brain area. And I think what's important about this one was we looked at a cell that we could grow out, we could put it on a shelf, we can make a product out of it, and it might reverse stroke damage. And this woman here, Alma Saraceni, is the first person to get cells directly injected into her stroked area in her brain in one of the studies that I was involved with. And that was a milestone, and that was a long time ago in '98. The problem is, and then the other thing was, one thing I realized early on, although it wasn't that early, I was already a full professor and had a lab and everything, was if you want to take it and do something with it, especially in medicine and in other areas, it's expensive. And you can say you're going to have this invention, but you've got to protect it, okay? And you have to have intellectual property with it to protect it and to get investors, to get people that are interested in it, because you can do all these studies you want and help this, but it won't get out there if people don't have a chance of protecting it from others, as well as making it something that can receive funds. So I learned more about patenting, and this was the patent that came out on the idea of cell therapy for chronic stroke, for example, with that study I just showed you. So there was then a series of patents, and I'll lead you to another thing. Patents, and this is where I'm leading into things, but patents can be gotten for a lot of different ideas. And you may think, okay, well, you put cells in stroke patients, that's the patent. Well, what about dosing patents? What about the type of cell? What about the place you're going to administer the cell? What about the dose that you're going to give, or or a combination of things that you're doing? All those things are patentable. Okay, so just because you have what you think is an original idea can have many, many more patents. And we hear about the phone. How many patents does a phone have? 5,000, 10,000?
Today?
Yeah. 5 to 10,000 patents in a cell phone that you're holding. Okay, so this is what, even in medicine, you see is the development of this. And people working with those, once a patent goes out, they may change the formulation of the cell, put a different dose in, not cell, I got cells in my brain here. They could change, a lot of things and get a new patent that for a new product. And then they get rid of the other product because it's no longer protected. So therefore, they have a new product to continue making their funds, their money. But in the case of this case, I thought about something, well, I can't leave. I thought about something interesting, which was, if you look at the diseases we're tackling, now, neurodegenerative diseases, not just injuries, not cancer, et cetera. We're looking at, Alzheimer's, looking at Parkinson's disease. And if we had a therapy for that was surgical, or that was through this direction, for example, there would not be enough neurosurgeons in the whole world to be able to do all the patients that are out there. Just aren't, on top of everything else that they do. So I was looking for an alternative as well, an alternative both on cost to the patient and in cost to others. And so the idea was then, after a stroke occurs, there's a disruption in the blood-brain barrier. The brain has a barrier around it, protects it from a lot of things. And it needs to be protected, okay? It only, it uses 20% of all the energy that you take out. And you breathe in, the air goes into your brain. It's a small organ compared to the rest of your body, but it is and it needs to be protected. So one of the facets here was, could we give it intravenously at this time when the blood-brain barrier is disrupted in the first few days, and get that to help stroke patients? So we went and we did some studies, and we found that in rat models of stroke, for example, that you could protect them from stroke by injecting stem cells or those types of cells in. Then we did then we went to clinical, and this was at University of Houston by my colleague Sean Savitz, a really good guy, and they were doing a study that was actually at the hospital that my father had his stroke at years earlier, and Bud Hendricks was the very first stroke patient to be enrolled in a study where they got intravenous cells injected. So that study went on. So that just gives you an example, which I wanted to stop there. Usually I give a talk on that whole thing, but I wanted to stop there and give you a feel for the kinds of things that I was tackling and that I'm doing. Now, I know everything that I heard today was pretty well AI. There was a few medical-related AI in there, but I know everyone is, this can be, really moved into areas that you're interested in, for example. So my other love of academics is that I want to make sure that, if I'm doing invention, that one thing we can do is try to, I thought it was important, looking at the university and seeing what they're doing. And most universities up to that point of 15 years ago did not value invention by professors. This was not valued. It was something you did behind a closed door, and it was all about getting grants. It was all about publishing and or perishing. And so the idea was that, you can do a patent, but there was nothing in promotion and tenure for the faculty, the young faculty, in doing it. Okay, so we went on it. So basically we started an academy. It was during the time of Obama's presidency, and one of the things that he said at the time, we were going through the Great Recession, and he said to all the university presidents, especially the top tier universities, that he wants to make economic development in their area, in their locale, another leg on a stool. And so that's where I came in, having experience by this time moving to Florida, where I had helped start a biotech company and do a few other things. We started to look at how can we enhance that. Well, one way to enhance it is get faculty and students and staff, like you're seeing, involved in areas that's translationable and that's marketable. And so I went and talked to a number of people, and I went up to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, talked to them, and the timing was perfect. The timing was perfect because they said, we know what industry inventors are doing. They got organizations, and they have award things that they give to people. We know what garage inventors do. They got big organizations. But we don't know what academic inventors do. They kind of do it behind, closed doors. So we came up with to start a academy that focused in on that, and that was the National Academy of Inventors. So one thing you do, and I'll say this, if you want to make change in things, sometimes you have to join in to the conversation. And that's why I became a senior administrator, really was to join into the conversation so I could be listened to, and I wasn't this cranky faculty member over on the side, and stuff. And I would give that advice to all of you as you develop. Don't be afraid to become part of the organization. You may not like what they do or something, but when you're part of it, you can make change from within. And that's what we did. So David Kapos was the Undersecretary of Commerce at the time, head of the Patent Office. And he's the one I went and talked to. And we came up with the academy. He came down to Tampa, where I was at University of South Florida. And he inaugurated the academy down there, which was great. And we ended up having the first two meetings there. Mm-hmm. And the idea was that, they would get a pin, they would present, they would get honored for the patents that they've done, and we would pick the best of the best for this, and that we would encourage universities to become part of us. So one of the things about this academy versus the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, we have membership for institutions, not just individuals as well. So who are we? How many people have heard of the NAI before this? I know. Okay, that's great. And then you're going to hear more of it because you're in the chapter meeting as well, which is great. So again, we were founded in 2010. We were, again, to provide educational resources and recognition programs, serve as experts. Today we have over 260, if not close to 300 member institutions. And these was academic institutions originally, but we have now government agencies. We have NSF, we have NIH, we have military agencies that are part of us. All the national labs are part of us now. And also nonprofit research organizations. So these would be the hospital systems, for example, Cleveland Clinic, for example, is a member, those kinds of areas. We're now one of 3 honorific organizations that the USPTO, the U.S. Department of Commerce, have, which is, of course, the National Inventors Hall of Fame. If you haven't been to the Washington area and gone to that Inventors Hall of Fame, it's really, really good. It's a lot of fun. Also, the National Medal of Science and the National Medal of Technology and Innovation. Those 2 medals are the American Nobel Prize. They're given by the president. And then the National Academy of Inventors. And we've had a joint project agreement. We just got it renewed for 5 years with the USPTO as our partner. And you're going to see a lot more from the NAI soon. So again, the impact of the academy that you will know about and be part of it. Hopefully, you all look like great inventors. I can tell you that when I see what you're doing. Is again strengthening the national ecosystem, recognizing faculty and staff. One of the first things we did was to encourage universities to put promotion and tenure up for inventive people. So for inventions, licensing, commercialization, starting companies, that should be part of a mission of faculty if they want it. And that has been truly achieved up to this point in most research institutions around the United States. Also, student inventors, big part of us, and you'll hear more about that. And then, of course, all the universities have a tech transfer office, and so we work very close with the tech transfer offices in various programs. Okay, so we are in the chapter program right now. I don't think I've been in a chapter program and got given this slide, so this is pretty cool. And we have over 50 chapters now in the country, and it is a great tool, and you're seeing this. And it really brings together the inventors in the local community to really come together and to really push innovation, especially for other professors, junior professors, people that don't think they're inventors, but could be, and for students. Okay, and then how about NJIT? So NJIT, to me, is unique that it has so many NAI fellows in its years. I come from the medical world, and I didn't know a lot about NJIT, okay? I can tell you that one of our meetings, we do annual meeting every year, and this last year it was in Hollywood, or a few months ago, and USC was our primary. We were in California about 7 or 8 years ago, and Caltech was our primary, with USC then and UCLA. But we were on the Caltech campus, and we got to go see the, NASA and all that stuff. It was great. But I can tell you what I've seen here at NJIT is on par with what I saw at Caltech. Just amazing. So to see these technical universities really come to life through the academy is fantastic. You all know about the Center for Translational Research. We heard about it earlier, so I'm not going to go into this slide because I talked a little bit more about me than I was going to. And the art program, then we'll hear about the URI program today as well. So we have a fellows program. So let me tell you the history of the fellows program real quick. The first year we started out with just universities and wanted them because the whole idea was to get the universities to really think about helping the economy, especially the local economies. It was really, for a lot of the young people in here probably didn't experience what we did through the Great Recession, but it was not an easy time. And so that was the first meeting. Then I'm driving the Undersecretary of Commerce and the head of the patent office to the airport, and they go, we really need to be like the other academies and have the best of the best, as members. And we called them fellows because what they didn't say is I'm Canadian and Australian trained, even though I'm an American. And I like the British approaches to things, British Commonwealth. So I thought fellow was really a good idea. The National Academies in Washington have member. So that's kind of how we did fellows. And the interesting thing is that I said, okay, let's do that. And so we put out a call for fellows that next year, and we got great. Now, to be a fellow, the idea was they needed to be the best in their field already. So they needed to be a professor that had made, they could have been in other national academies. They could have been, they were leaders in their universities doing a lot of things. But they also, on top of that, they had to be an inventor, and they had to have done something with their inventing. And it didn't have to be that they had to start a company. It was going to be $1 billion company. It could also have been that they were an inventor, but they helped the ecosystem, the local ecosystem. So that's how the Fellows program started, and it's been a great program. And it is our key program for faculty. This is the impact now of our fellows that are, the 2,253 fellows that we have. They hold over 86,000 patents. Up to this point, they're all either in, as I said, in universities, primarily government. They have 20,000 licensed technologies. They represent 300 universities, and diversity at least of universities and where in the country they are is important to us. They've involved 50,000 students, created 1.4 million jobs, 4,000 new companies, and over 3.8 trillion in revenue. And that's just the fellows. And we also have senior members, and we have others, and we have universities as well. So the impact of these people it has been amazing. So then we have a senior member program. This was actually started by Panchanathan. He was in our board, and then he became director of the National Science Foundation until about a year ago. And he felt strongly, and I did, that we needed to have younger faculty and others that were doing really well, doing incredibly well, in starting companies and doing all this stuff, and to be members of the Academy. So we started a senior member program, and up to this point, we have almost 1,000 senior members, and they hold over 11,000 patents. And they tend to have started more new companies recently than a lot of the others. So we have education resources, and I'd like to turn you on, especially the students here, to what we offer. And we offer a lot more than this, so go to the website if you're interested. But we have what we call GAIN, which is the Global Academic Inventors Network. And what this will allow you to do is to get together with a mentor. Mentoring is absolutely critical. You're all doing great stuff. You know, the one thing I saw in the back of each of your presentation was a thank you to your professor, right? A thank you to your supervisors. And I think that is one thing that's absolutely very, very important. And then one thing, let me ask you this, because I asked this to a lot of students around. The faculty don't, or the board and faculty don't have to answer it, of course. How many of the students here have had education in intellectual property? Raise your hand. How many have not? Raise your hand if you've not yet up to this point. That's actually the majority. Okay? Absolutely critical. I did the same thing at USF a few weeks ago. We had an NSF undergrad program there, and I've done it for a few years, a lecture or two, and they had 30 people, and I said, how many have had IP? And they're all there for research, and only one raised their hand. But you guys are inventors, and it's kind of split in many ways as well. Learn some IP, learn some basic IP. Okay, I think that's absolutely critical for that. And we offer a free course. It's an online course, and it teaches you the basics of IP, teaches you the basics of patents. We had just a few years ago, we had 374 institutions use this course. And we're going to be having a few other courses. You get a certificate when you finish the course. It's not an easy course, and it does have an exam, but you get a certificate, and I get to sign it. So keep me busy. But do that. I think that's absolutely critical for you to learn about patenting. Normally, I would have more slides here on the basics of patenting and to talk to you about. Again, I told you about our annual conference, and that is one thing that we just highlight incredibly. Yeah. It's been all over the United States up to this point, and I thought last year was one of the best. I know the Autumn was there, and I thought it was great. It was right off Hollywood Boulevard. In fact, he and I walked up, where the walkway with, the sidewalk with all the stars. We had lunch there. We're talking about invention, and of course, I like the Mickey Mouse stars. That was my favorite. But so next one's going to be in Texas, in Arlington, where your president used to be president. It will be there, and it's going to be a really great event as well. We have what's called an innovation showcase, and this has really, really grown. This is for students, okay? And so we have K through 12, and these are for inventors, and we have what's called the Genspiration Prize for them, as well as we have university inventors. We have primarily undergraduates like yourself, and this has really grown. And we do a whole day on it. We have a competition, and we give money. And we give money to you, and we give money to the school for that. And what I can tell you is that we're looking at this. We're calling this the Nobel Prize of Student Invention. Okay? So to submit to this, you need to have won a competition somewhere. So I would encourage those that are the winners here, submit, come to Texas, if things like that. So they have to, there is a big organization called Invention Convention, which is mainly for high school and younger kids. It's huge. And it's all around the country, so they always send a few. The National Inventors Hall of Fame has a program for college students as well. That's a program you should submit to. There are a few out there. And so with your inventions, and you don't need a patented invention, you just need one that you have that could do really well. And so I would encourage you, and what I've seen today, you've got the capacity here to do that. So please come out. We make a big deal out of it. Even at the final banquet, students come up, and it's just a wonderful thing to do. Yeah. The final thing that I want to talk to you about was we're known for a number of other things, and that is we provide rankings. We get these rankings with the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and I encouraged at the beginning to do this because what it really did was kind of universities love rankings. I don't know if you know anything else about universities. They love rankings. They love to use them to tout how good they are. And so we put out a ranking every year called the Top 100 Worldwide Universities. We put out the Top 100 U.S. universities and the Top 60 nonprofit research institutions and government agencies. So these could be military agencies, could be hospitals, could be a number of other things. But for the universities, they have to have an undergraduate program. See what the next slide is, because I want to talk to you about. Okay, so let me go back real quick. Let me tell you what's going on in the world for a second. Take a look, go to the website, take a look at the top 100 worldwide universities. All right? One thing that you'll see over the years is the top 10. Half the top 10 now are foreign universities, not non-American. Okay, and you're seeing this shift from especially China, especially a number of other areas of these universities doing more patents than American universities. And I'm not talking patents in their own country. I'm talking American patents. Okay, they're getting patented in America. And that's a shift. And I know that, which is great. It took in many ways because there's more inventions going out there in the world, but there's also needs that this country needs to do in order to compete. And I would encourage you to take a look at that because countries like China are doing some very unique things. Got a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
2 more minutes. One of them is I was reading recently, they are going to allow patents to be part of a PhD dissertation. So instead of doing a dissertation per se, they're going to let patents that the students did to be part of that. That's pretty unique. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. All right. Well, we already saw this from Autumn about the members of NJIT's fellows. And of course, the most recent one was Wen Zhang. And then these are the new senior members. So these are all the senior members, which you didn't see, of the Academy from NJIT, with Caesar and Sai as the two new senior members. Well, thank you. I hope that helped. I hope that gave you a feel for things. And I am so happy and gracious to you to have me part of this. Thank you very much.